Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees, the podcast. Well, the Yankees close out the first half of the season with a loss and losing the series against the Cubs 2-1 there. But overall, a 4-2 homestand, which I guess you would take this considering the way the Yankees were about a week ago, on a 6-game losing streak and people starting to hit the panic button there. So we'll just kind of look at this closing series against the Cubs there, but also, look at some positive there. A couple of players coming on lately for the Yankees, such as Stanton and Devin Williams, kind of just looking at their numbers there. So at least you have something to look forward to. And of course, just give you a quick glimpse again of the All-Star break there and what the Yankees have to look forward once the season restarts again. So get into the whole thing, but before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this podcast, Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcast, and there's also a YouTube version of the show, Section 420 Talkin Yankees. Search it, subscribe, get everything. So the Yankees, of course, we know, got the sweep against the Seattle there, and of course that last game, a thriller, coming back from 5-0 there in the 8th inning. And then, of course, you get the Cubs coming to town again, a tough Cubs team there, not exactly someone to roll over there. But you figure maybe on a high note after sweep, the Yankees may at least take 2 out of 3 against a top-tier team. And it did start off their way. Again, the Friday night game was probably everything you could wanted as a Yankee fan. Blank them 11-0. You get probably the best start of Carlos Rodon's Yankee tenure in his third season here, going 8 strong. And of course, all the highlights going to Cody Bellinger with 3 home runs. Almost got 4. We actually got robbed of another home run by Kyle Tucker there out in right field there. So almost had 4 home runs this game, but nevertheless getting 3 home runs against his former club, the Cubs. And, obviously you can see this Bellinger really coming on lately for him. But most importantly, though, there's a couple other players, which I'll highlight a little later, that also starting to come on for the Yankees. But unfortunately for the Yankees, really the rest of the weekend was not good as planned. Really offense pretty much smothered by Cubs pitching Matt Boyd there on Saturday. And, of course, the final game, Imanaga, shutting the Yankees down for 7 innings, just giving up 2 hits and 1 run. One of those runs is being a Giancarlo Stanton home run, again, who his bat is starting to heat up lately. But as for the Yankees, really couldn't answer anything in the 2 final games. Max Fried took the ball in the Saturday game, which is, again, why he couldn't pitch in the All-Star game, is because, again, the days lined up there. They had to leave the game early with a blister, and then Loaiza gave up a couple of runs there out of the pen there. And then, again, in the final game, the Yankees is completely smothered by Managa there, the Japanese, the lefty, is completely shutting them down there. So the Yankees kind of whip her out a little bit to close the first half of the year, but you don't really have as bad a taste of the match as you did about a week ago, even though the Yankees won that final game at Citi Field to stop the 6-game losing streak. Even though they won the game, you really didn't feel good at all at that point, and that's kind of when the Yankees started making the moves to move DJ around and then finally designate him for assignment there. So even the Yankees lose 2 out of 3 here, you don't feel as terrible as you close the season. Now you want to look in the standings. The Yankees finish right now in second place in the AL East, just 2 behind the Toronto Blue Jays. I don't think that's a big deal right now. Again, I just think that's some of the highs and lows of the season. I still expect this division to go to the Yankees when it's all said and done. But the Yankees right now at 53-43, 10 games over 500. Not terrible. You expect them to be a little bit better, but again, they kind of had that. You had 2 6-game losing streaks looking back in the rearview mirror there. So that kind of will knock you back a little bit. But I think, again, as I said before, when it's all said and done, I still think the AL East will go to the Yankees. So they got the All-Star break, as we know. We got the Home Run Derby coming up. Jazz is going to participate. We got the big game, and of course, the feature a couple of Yankees who's highlighted here, such as Aaron Judge. It's going to be Max Fried, but he had to bow out just because the day doesn't work out for him. So Carlos Rodon will get that appearance for him, and of course maybe that news spurred up Rodon a little bit. He's had a magnificent start Friday there. Last but not least, Jazz himself will be also in the All-Star game. Swinging the home run bat up to 17 now. And again, getting that batting average creeping up as well. And of course, got to give kudos also to Judge. Even on the loss on Saturday, reaching 350th home run of his career, the youngest player to do so at age 33 and so there. So being even younger than Mark McGwire doing it, and of course, Mark McGwire always be associated with some PEDs there. So Judge seemingly doing it all natural there. So Judge, again, we don't know where he ends up. This is going to be a kazoodle of home runs there. So whether he gets to Barry Bonds or not remains to be seen. But very good chance he's going to end up there probably in the 600s or 700s when it's all said and done there. And Judge really didn't even care much about it, which I don't blame him. Obviously, I think he definitely would have traded that in for a win instead of just a 5-2 loss, which the Yankees had to accept on that day. But I want to get back to, as I mentioned at the top, there's some things to look forward to. So once the season rekindles there, the Yankees will be on the road at Atlanta, who's going to have a little bit of a disappointing season. So, if you want to get yourself right a little bit and kind of start off the second half on a good note. Now, it is on the road, so it's a little tricky there, but still, Braves, again, having a little bit of an underwhelming season compared to some Braves teams of the past there. So, I think he's got a good shot there. And then right after that, they go right up to Toronto again. Maybe gives themselves an opportunity to make up some ground. Maybe take the AL East back there with 3 games against the Blue Jays. So, if you want to look at the road trip afterwards between the Braves and the Toronto Blue Jays, you want to call that the 1993 World Series road trip for the Yankees there to try to creep their way back on top of the AL East. But as mentioned before with Stanton, hitting up, it looks like he finally got the home run swing going a little bit over the past week. He has hit 3 home runs, and he's been back, and batting average wise has been okay, but we really haven't seen the power yet. It looks like it's finally starting to click in with him. And, as mentioned before, 3 home runs over the past week, so bring him up for 4. And you want to just look over the past 7 games, gotten the batting average up there to 261. It's almost like you don't want this break because you feel like when he comes back, maybe he has to start all over again. It's taking a while, to get the swing. He's been back here a couple of weeks, but you still haven't seen the power yet. Now you've seen the power, but now you have to go on the break. So that's a little bit annoying. And, of course, also now Bellinger also hitting a hot bat as well on the pitching side. Devin Williams, who... I think with some of the struggles of Weaver lately, kind of creeped in as now kind of, somewhat taking the command of that 9th inning role, and he's kind of deserved them. I saw some good stats on him today, so he's not allowed to run the last 22 of the 25 games he's appeared in, and within that stretch, 9 saves, a microscopic, really small ERA of 1.90. Maybe not microscopic, but anything under 2 is quite impressive. But what you like to see is the strikeout stuff is there, which he did not have most of, pretty much all of April and top of May there. 33 strikeouts in 23 and 2/3 innings, so he's averaging a little bit more than a strikeout per inning. And again, you're seeing the stuff there. Even with 95, again, he's never been a guy that blows you away, but between that and his airbender, which is 83, getting the swings and misses, again, for whatever reason that stuff was not there in May and April, it is there now there, and you just see him has come on lately, and this is, again, kind of what you envisioned to start the season. Took him all to get there. We don't know if it's the new digs, the new area, putting on a Yankee uniform, for whatever it is, though, he seems much more better now, and again, you see Boone regularly going to him in the 9th inning in those high leverage roles there, and it's kind of like Luke Weaver's sort of like the odd man out who kind of has to prove his way to get his way back into the closer role. But, Boone kind of said really, even several weeks ago when, both pitchers are seemingly well, this is all going to be about matchup. So sometimes you might see Williams early, sometimes you might see Weaver early. This all depends who they go against. So what you got to look forward to, again, as you get back into the second half of the season, you take the sort of the April and May of someone like Devin Williams or even Bellinger. It really wasn't impressive. Now you got those guys. Those are the guys you expected at the start of the season. Now you got them pitching and hitting well hot now. And you want to add on top of that, you got Giancarlo Stanton seemingly getting the home run stroke going down. And the team, just by addition by subtraction, just the fact you don't have DJ LeMahieu here, so I think this will be a better team. Unfortunately, I have to say this, a better team without him around there. Now, obviously, there's going to be a move to be made at third base as we, a couple of weeks now we get near the trade deadline. Cashman's going to have to bring in a third baseman here. Is it going to be a superstar? I don't know, but probably better than Peraza or like Vivas there at third base. So I'm pretty sure he's going to bring someone in there. And of course, the starting rotation, yes, you lose the big piece with Clark Schmidt, but Luis Hill should be around the corner, and I'm sure Cashman, in addition to that, is going to bring in probably another arm there. But you also have to look forward to the next starts of Cam Schlittler, the guy who had, again, an impressive first start against the Mariners. I'm not saying he was 8 innings dominant there, but for a first start for Major League career there, not too shabby there. And if that guy could hold up for the rest of the season, hey, I think if he's pitching hot for you, that just might be sometimes the ace in hole. And that's why sometimes it's good when someone gets hurt because you just discover a guy like that. Because obviously, if the opportunity doesn't open up, you'll never know what he got. And you can always go back to like David Cohn, 1998, gets bit on his finger by a dog, by I guess his mother's dog, or whatever. That opens the door to El Duque to get a start. Now I think El Duque would have been up sooner or later, anyways. I mean, there's all the hoopla around him, but still, it opened the door for El Duque. He came up here, impressed, and he pretty much stayed with the team the rest of the year. And the script writes itself there. So sometimes you get those opportunities when someone like a Clark Schmidt goes down, you're bummed out. But if it opens the door to someone like Cam to come up there and really impress, maybe sometimes turn out to be the better thing. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. So that's the episode. It's kind of a closing of the first half of the regular season. A little bit some disappointments. Obviously, you start the year, you lose Cole, you lose Luis Hill for a while there. Now we just lose Clark Schmidt for the rest of the year. So yeah, you have those disappointments. Obviously, you get to the point where the Yankees had to finally pull off the Band-Aid with DJ LeMahieu. All that being said, and all some of the struggles of players sort of like a Devin Williams kind of blowing up early there and blowing a lot of games, a lot of opportunities for the Yankees there. it never really fell apart. And I know even though the Yankees had a couple of losing streaks there, had 2 6-game losing streaks. Again, it never fell apart, kept it together. They're still right there. You're right there towards the top of the AL East. Again, some disappointments there, but I think overall, again, the Yankees pretty much should have this division, locked up over the long haul. I just don't think Toronto's going to be able to, maintain what they're doing lately over the second half of the season. I think the Yankees are going to get better. Yankees maybe early on had a really hot streak with almost like a 15, 16, 17 games over 500. The Yankees have probably another one of those hot streaks in them at some point to really engineer like the second half. We kind of seen out the Yankees. We've seen them have some doldrums a little bit around June, July, but then usually towards August and September they kind of get the ship righted up and they kind of get things in the right direction. I think you'll see similar with this Yankee team. And as for Aaron Judge, obviously he's on an insane home run pace right now. Is he going to beat his 62? Maybe. He's probably going to get close again, and you'll see all the hoopla over that. But again, he's kind of been there and done that. He kind of dabbled with it last season. Then in 2022, we know he got to the 62 there. So I don't think he's going to buckle and go out of his stance, out of his routine, just to hit some home runs. I think he learned his lesson a little bit. But I think he's just totally focused on getting a ring finally. So could have been worse, could have been better. But again, I think all things considered, you'll be okay here at this point. So you have the All-Star break, and then hopefully Yankees could get on a better foot to start the second half. Catch you next time.